Great. So we started the recording. Thank you again for attending. I'm Andrew at Implicit Digital and sharing this for the Mindvalley community around digital business design. And the topic for today is clarity. So what we mean by clarity is having the right balance between chaos and structure, having the right balance between courage and fear, navigating through the noise and stillness in the digital space, and having progress step by step. So when we're talking about this digital space, we're looking at a lot of people joining since 2020 and trying to solve their own problems with either digital tools or a digital business or integrating more digital software in their life. And for some reason, it all caught us by surprise, but the whole digital information was already there. Like Zoom was already here, and thankfully it was already here when the pandemic started, because we didn't have this flexibility just a few years ago. And also the whole infrastructure is already here, which means that most of the Western world is well connected to the internet, and we have good infrastructure that will allow us to leverage the bandwidth to the maximum. We just need to learn and integrate what's going to happen when what we need to action when we get onto the step of creating a new business or redefining our offline business. So that's actually the blend between chaos and structure. And the first item that I'd like to share is that clarity comes in spite of the chaos, because the chaos is something that we just cannot control. So there's a lot of pushy and aggressive marketing around various tools, and there's a lot of bold voices that say, hey, this is the best solution for you, and it just adds up to the chaos. And I've been working with clients for, I don't know, I would say business to business clients for more than 10 years. So then they're everyone is asking honestly, hey, can I use that? Or what they're actually asking is, can I trust you on your recommendation? And that's quite obvious that everyone will say their subjective opinion on each and every tool or solution. But if the clear intent is to bring clarity and to bring some structure in the chaos, then the whole process becomes a lot easier. So when we're looking at starting a new digital business, we need to accept that there's a lot of chaos behind that. And just look at big companies such as Facebook or Google. They're, I wouldn't want to be in their position right now when everything is so changing. There's a lot of pressure from the corporate systems that are just pushing them to keep being profitable and bringing the same kind of results that they've brought for years. Like they've brought profits like that for years, so that's expected from them. That's expected from them to happen continuously. So now we're not able to compare ourselves with them from a smaller business position. They're just gonna do their thing, we're gonna do our thing, which is in a quite parallel world. And what I would add here is that they're contributing to the their big companies are contributing both to organizing the world and also to creating the chaos, because there's a saying, and that's quite important also. It doesn't sound right when we talk about problems, right? But the point is that today's solutions are tomorrow's problems. So whatever solution we can find today to fix our journey is going to be here most likely as a solution for just a short time, because the world is changing so fast that whatever I use today to do my work my presentation, my screen sharing, my platform, this might not be tomorrow, because it's coming again around. People have new kind of engaging with the content, new ways of new expectations, and this shifts to the newer and newer technology. So it's mostly about being creative with the technology, but not chaotic. So that step by step, I guess this is, yeah, step by step, we gain the courage to go through this. And I'm talking about courage and fear because they're not necessarily opposites. And it's not quite obvious that you need courage to navigate through this. So, of course, you need courage as an entrepreneur to start your own business. That's quite clear. You need to have a certain, it's going to be risky, right? So, you need to be at least a bit of enjoying the risk and the fun and the journey along the entrepreneurial road. So, this courage is, of course, a foundation for you to step into the not only the chaos but the cloudy future that you don't know really too much about it, but you're expecting to build something that's going to be sunny and powerful and joyful for yourself. But the point is that the courage doesn't cancel fear. It only builds up more courage so you can be aware of the fear, so we can accept that we can always be fearful of I don't know, let's say, who's gonna tools won't work. That can always happen. You can dim down that fear and walk through it with courage, but that's not something that you can take for granted. Like, digital tools crash all the time. Creative people are not delivering creative stuff all the time. That happens. It's not like a rule, but it just happens. Like, art, digital art doesn't look great on some screens. Happens all the time. Beautiful interfaces that worked well for a few years suddenly don't work anymore because of some, I don't know, some browser updates. That happens all the time. It's so common that once you understand that, you just need courage to step forward. You don't need to be frightful of, I know, a software update again. Is any one of you using WordPress? So that's quite common. Okay, well, WordPress is still a popular software for websites, and not only websites. You can start it as a blog platform and transform it into a very complex content management system. It's like a hub for any kind of web pages, I would say, because it can handle e-commerce, it can handle the typical landing pages, it can handle lots of integrations and stuff. But it got so big that it's becoming a target for, I don't know, let's say, not only hackers but also bad bad suppliers, bad lower quality code that's being plugged into WordPress. And that's a vulnerability, not from a security standpoint only, but from a business standpoint also. Because if you're purchasing, let's say, if you're a truck company and you're buying very, very cheap tires for the truck, and it doesn't have good brakes, they break all the time, and you just have only issues with that, then it's not the truck company's problem. It's most likely that you weren't aware that the implications of that tire company, right? So I hope it makes sense. and you just need the courage to drive here, because it's gonna happen anyway. You may not be aware, and just need to build up this, so it's gonna give you more and more clarity around this. And this is not something around you, John. It's gonna be shown on the next slide. In fact, let me show it right now. I was working with some Norwegians companies a few years ago, and I bought and read this book to understand a bit about the Norwegian culture. The funny thing was that I worked previously with the United States more than with Norwegians, and this author, Son Percival, arrived in Norway as an investor, and he was the very loud person at the table. So when I said we were buying from the loud American, I was just imagining his image on the Norwegian boards, screaming and, hey, let's do that Silicon Valley style, or I don't know, California style. That's the way he was presenting it. So the point is that there's very loud marketing around all the new space, and it's not only it's not feasible for all the cultures, which is very well explained in this book. So Norway is a 5 million inhabitants country, and the typical culture there is a lot more quieter and a lot more, I would say, not only respectful with one another. There's a thing about not being too pushy to step ahead of the other people's opportunities. So they're giving each other space so they can all have their opportunities. It's called Jante's law. That's something very specific in Norway. And the point is that when you're just buying from loud marketers, you're just buying into their own dream, and you're not buying into your own dream. We're going to be a bit more specific here on various tools. There are very performant tools that are decently marketed, so not necessarily loud. They're equally well-built tools with a lot of more hype and everything like that. When you think about marketing, not necessarily you, but many people think that or imply that's a cost there. And of course it's a cost, most likely for all the paid advertising. Most of the advertising systems are very pricey. So what would you expect from your end point of view around the cost? Would it be more expensive to buy a well-marketed product, or would it be cheaper to buy a well-marketed product? Most likely it's going to be a tad more expensive for some reason, right? Because they need to put in the marketing costs. That's not the only answer to this. Marketing can be very creative, and the whole social media targeting systems can appear very I would say persuasive, but on the other hand, it just may be a very small mechanism of retargeting that you're not aware of, and they're just pushing a lot of advertising only to you for very few cents on the impressions, or maybe not on impressions at all, so that it would appear that it's very marketed, but in fact it's just targeting you because you visited their website. That's very common. And once you have again clarity around this and treating it with a level of awareness, you're not necessarily gonna buy just because you're seeing constantly the same or maybe another ad, because that's not the point of buying stuff. The point of buying stuff for your business is so that they will have a clear purpose. If they're not gonna have a clear purpose, you're not gonna use them in the end. You're gonna use parts of them. That's not okay as an investment. You wouldn't do that for a physical business, because we just need to imagine the digital world with the same eyes that we're using to imagine in the physical world. So how are we gonna handle this for our own sake? Cool. So the point that I've made in some previous presentations, and I'm gonna just go a bit through this, is that we just need to have a decent level of education around the digital tools, and not only tools, all those systems, and what's relevant for my own business, what's relevant for my own, I know, at least a year, 2 or 3 in the future, like, okay, what's going to happen and what kind of builds I'm using for my own path, right? And all the education is available on the internet, and the problem with this is that's too much information on various stuff, and all the education can start with a Google search. But I'm not gonna ask you, hey, have you Googled that before? 'Cause that's not funny anymore, because just typing in a Google what you want to ask, what you want to find out, is gonna come up with, again, loud blog posts that are just SEO optimizing, which are gonna just push their articles on the front of Google's pages, but they're not going to actually help you, or they can be very, very inserted with affiliate links, which will just generate them profit, because that's their business model. Everything that lives on the internet has a business model. And if they're using that business model for their use, then that's going to be their actions for the long. Then all this kind of information, if you read it or if you digest it from another source, like a podcast, video, or whatever form of education you are consuming at your preference, then you need to integrate it somehow. And integration comes from looking at all the stuff that all the verticals around your learning, and making the connections on top of it, and seeing how they can fit together. And if you don't know, then that's the best time to put a question. That's the best time to ask, hey, how am I going to use this with this and this? Because that's what I'm trying to integrate and wrap together. Because generic questions can be found on Google. YouTube as well. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world right now, right? And it's still owned by Google. So be it text or be it visual, you can search them on Google's search engine. So just ask a very specific question around what you want to educate yourself with. And then if you're, hey, I know about that, I know about that, I know about that, how am I wrapping everything together? So it's going to be of most impact for me. And then take some action. I mean, if you're going to use all this digital stuff and you want to build a business that rocks, then you need to take some action as well. And action comes in various forms, and it can be as simple as writing a blog post per day. That can start your business. I mean, that's it. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch of systems and integrations and tools that will prepare you for a big launch. Well, I know experience builds up, and I'd rather do more iterative small launches than one big launch from the start. I mean, that's the point with this series as well. We have no idea where it's gonna end up, the form of the presentations, or the level of commitment from the participants in this digital awareness presentations. But we're looking at um, sharing step by step part of our processes and part of our know-how, so that people will start using them and integrate them and take some action. So it comes back with more information to fine tune everything, because that's the iterative process of building a business, and that's what we're going to talk more about in tomorrow's episode, which is strictly on the definition of business design and how this iterative process is actually helping you to be on a very solid ground rather than just pushing into the wild and building something that's not necessarily well prepared. And coming up to a close of the presentation, this is how the major look of a digital team will look, and we know that all the jobs will be tech enabled, and they need to be supported by some kind of digital stack. And entrepreneurs are being more and more innovative, and they're solving the world problems in different and new ways. Businesses are being taken businesses are being looked at, and they're being asked to be more sustainable by their consumers. So it's not only the entrepreneurs, but the consumers ask that already. And they're looking at, hey, is your business sustainable? And if they don't feel like a business is sustainable, they tend not to buy from that. So there's a pattern there. It's not necessarily universal, but there's something around making business sustainable that's gonna be a trend for a while. And of course, when we're talking about life, life should be meaningful, and we're living in emotions. So, um, as an emotion right now, thank you for your attention, undivided attention for this uh, presentation, and I'm grateful that you've been attentive. And we can talk about of the common questions that I get, and uh, we can continue our conversation in the questions panel, which we're starting right now. For the recorded event, that's about it, and hoping to see you, if you're seeing this, hoping to see you in the next videos. So I'm gonna stop the sharing on YouTube right now.